can you guys, or can any team, simultaneously uh, be in win now mode and compete for a championship, as well as trying to set themselves up for the future with young players?
Thanks,
Again, thank you.
Yeah, I think the first question, having those picks next year is not impacting our strategy this year and wanting to take the best player available at the 2 spot. And so we're really excited for talent that we're going to add. And I think we're in a unique spot to be able to add a player that will be able to contribute to a win now mode. And I think as we went through free agency, we built a roster to try to win now while accumulating some draft picks for the future. We believe that at 2, we're going to get a player that will help us this year as well as the long term.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks. You're going to go to Patrick Finley. Patrick, you're going to be followed by Alyssa Hirsch. Patrick. Patrick may have lost you. We'll stay.
Rookie mistake. I was muted.
Almost went to the other Chicago and Annie. Annie, it's Patrick's fault. Go ahead, Patrick.
Jeff, this is Patrick Finley at the Chicago Sun-Times. I'm curious. It's possible that there are going to be guards available when you draft who have played with your bigs in college at different spots. When you evaluate them, how much weight do you put in the fact that there may be a chemistry there, and how much leaning on your bigs do you do when trying to figure out? Get a scouting report on them.
Yeah, no, good question. We're always going to be looking for synergy between guards and bigs. So, it makes some sense, of course, when there's players available that could be in our range to get perspectives from players that they may have played with. We're always going to continue to make the best decision for the organization. But yeah, it matters because continuity means a lot, when you're building a team.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We're going to turn to Alyssa. Alyssa, you're up, and you're going to be followed by Annie.
Hey, Jeff, this one's for you. How are you doing?
Alyssa.
So there were a couple of prospects who were projected to go in the first round who only recently announced that they're going to return to college basketball. And I was curious whether the uncertainty around who was going to be available was a factor in your willingness to part ways with the number 3 pick.
Good question. Been waiting for this one. I think that the decision to try to go get Ariel Atkins was a Ariel Atkins decision, not, due to the strength of the draft, and if anything, it just shows how much we're dedicated and how much we believe in her to move such a strong pick. But no, I mean, we probably didn't know any more than anybody else. And obviously we made that deal, quite a bit ago, before some of these players made decisions. But again, when we have an opportunity to add somebody that checks the boxes that we're looking for to get us closer, to, not alone the playoffs, but to get closer to a championship again, that's why we did what we did with Ariel.
All right, thanks. We're going to go to Annie. Annie, you're going to be followed by Jack Maloney. Annie, go ahead.
Sorry to shock everybody, but this question is not for Jeff Pagliocca. I wanted to ask Talisa about international prospects. A lot of people have Dominique Malonga going 2nd overall. And I'm curious if you could just speak to the unique challenges that present themselves when drafting an international player. And also, how do you feel like the WNBA needs to do a better job of attracting international players, especially with expansion coming up?
Thanks, Annie. I think that there are quite a few really talented international players in this draft, Dom being one of them. And I think the W is doing a great job of bringing over talent and making them want to stay here and making the W a priority. I think we're also seeing these international players growing up now with the dream to come play in the WNBA. And it's not just to stay over in Europe and play, but the playing in the WNBA is a priority for them. I think there's always challenges, and there's a lot of uncertainty and kind of just what's to come with our league over the next few years and with FIBA competitions. And we know, that some things are changing and our footprint's changing. We're expanding. There's a lot in motion right now. But I think what has been clear with a lot of these international players is they do want to play and they want to make the W a priority. And so we're excited for some of those changes. And I think it's an ongoing conversation with them in their, time and availability for the WNBA.
if I can just follow up really quickly, when a hypothetical, let's say you guys do take an international player at number 2, what are the conversations like leading up to it that what confirm whether or not they'll be here by the start of training camp, by the start of the season, et cetera?
Sure. Yeah, there's conversations with the player directly. There's conversations with the agency and their team, just trying to understand, what does their current situation look like? A lot of them are still playing overseas. What does that season look like, and when could that potentially end? And then also, what national team are they a part of, and are there commitments, with the European Championships, with World Cup, with Olympics down the road? So it's a case by case conversation, but a lot of ongoing conversations with their teams.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next up, Jack Maloney. Jack, you're going to be followed by Noah. Jack.
Yeah, hi everyone. This upcoming year, there's, potentially a new collective bargaining agreement, a huge free agency class, more expansion teams. I'm just curious, how does sort of the upcoming, maybe uncertainty about the league affect what you might do during draft night?
All right, anyone want to take that one? All right, we're gonna move on to the next one, or I'll give you a chance. Jack, you have another question? All right, Jack, I will come back to you if you have another one. Noah, you're up.
Hi, yes, this is for anybody who wants to take it or all four, What is your guys' assessment just on NC State's Saniya Rivers and Aziah James coming into Monday's draft?
All right, Jamila, are you on? I'm going to turn to Jamila if you're here with us.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, Jamila, thank you.
Yeah, just jumping in. I think the program at NC State and Saniya and Aziah, great examples of the talent that I think Talisa referred to before. In this draft, I think we watched that team really find some tremendous chemistry towards the end of the year. Both just really exciting players that I think example where the game is going. Both incredibly athletic, both able to get up and down the court and play with speed, both able to play, a couple different positions. I think both of them are examples of the kind of versatile outside talent that we're just beginning to see more consistently and spread across the NCAA, and we're about to watch that talent enter our league.
All right, Tosh, we're going to go next to Mike Vopel. Mike, you're going to be followed by Howard. Mike.
Yeah, thank you. This is also for Jamila Wideman. With the 3 of the top 6 picks, can you just give us a sense of what you guys feel like you're targeting position-wise, and if you feel like there's any international players possibly for you guys in those picks that you'll have in the top 6?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're really excited to be at 3, 4, and 6. I think it actually creates an opportunity for us to build strength in a couple of different ways. Obviously, with just one pick, maybe you can do one thing at a time. But I think we have a chance to build depth. I think we have a chance to build on strength positionally at the same time. I think we're really excited about bringing in a group of young players into an environment that we think will essentially inspire growth and development. And I would say not only in those young players, but also more generally, just looking at our existing roster. I think we've got a great blend and some veterans who are also still looking to grow and improve their games. And so we look forward to welcoming that energy and that youth to be in that environment as well.
All right, thank you. We'll turn next to Howard and then Jonathan L. Howard. All right.
Hold on. Nope, I'm here. You got me?
Here we go.
Okay. Hi, Jamila. Howard Megdal at the Nets. Nice to chat with you. Sorry for the delay. just sort of a two-parter. Obviously at 3, 4, 6 in this draft under the current CBA, it would seem that these are not just rookies, but rookies who will be at a lower salary structure than rookies are likely to be in subsequent years. I'm wondering whether that changes the way you think of the value of those picks, and just related to it, whether because those three are valuable, how much you've given thought to potentially using them to trade up.
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, I think to your first question, I think we look at the players who are available and essentially assess their value based on the talent that's coming in. I think we're all in a position of waiting to see how the CBA will land, and also how any changes may impact contracts that are actually signed this year. So I don't have a firm sense or answer in terms of what will be true for the rookies who come out this year from a contractual standpoint, but we're all sort of waiting to see what that will ultimately be. And I think, as I said, in this year's draft for us, having that collection of picks has always been about looking at the opportunity to onboard a lot of talent at once. And so right now, that's really what we see in the value of those picks.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Jonathan, you're up. You're going to be followed by Cassandra and Kareem. Jonathan.
All right. One of the notable things I think around this draft is there's several first-round caliber talents who have elected not to enter the draft and to stay in college. Maybe for Curt, curious what you see as the biggest factors driving those decisions in a broad sense, and how those factors might change in the years to come.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think it's all probably individualized decisions. We don't get privy to the whys on why those players returned, if they're chasing more of a collegiate experience or a championship or a different role, or if there's other factors. So I don't think there's probably, for any of those players deciding to return, necessarily one way and one decision that they are making. But it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. For us, longtime people in the WNBA or that have worn the GM hat, we're ready for the COVID year to be over, and it just never seems to be over. So to truly know who's coming in or not into the draft, but we're always nimble as GMs in this league. You don't truly know who's declaring and coming into the draft until the very end. So you're always nimble, you're always preparing, you're always being very thorough. From all 13 of our franchises are going to be very thorough.
If I could just quickly follow up, I mean, it seems like part of it is the financial realities of, what you can make now in the college game and what you can make in the pros, whether that's salary or whatnot. Like, do you feel that from your chair, and do you expect that to change at all?
Just personally speaking, and I think that the narratives out there is sometimes false, that most of these NIL deals or endorsements, more than anything, with these top players that are first round picks, their endorsements are going to travel with them. So the narrative that they're not is frankly false. That they're going to take those with them. So unsure, but I think at times there's too much made about salary and too much made about what's going on in college. But again, we don't live in the shoes of the collegiate athletes and everything that's going on. But the top players that we're talking to, their endorsements are going to travel with them.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. We're going to go to Cassandra, then Kareem. Cassandra.
Hey, Curt. I'll stick with you. Hailey Van Lith reached the Elite Eight with 3 different teams in 5 years. She talked about just being a winner and her ability to adapt. Heading into a draft and judging a player who has won in all those different kinds of ways, how do you kind of weigh that going into a draft like this?
Yeah, I'll be a little bit generic in terms of winner because it was such a big part of our free agency. When we looked at free agency and building this 25 roster in Dallas, that was a big priority for us. So through our trades, we added numerous collegiate national champions, or at minimum competed in the Final Fours at the collegiate level. And we also added WNBA champions, or when you look at Dejanay Carrington and Ty Harris, they've been Dejanay, her entire career has either been in the semifinals or the finals in the WNBA. And Ty Harris has now been back-to-back semifinals. They were the starting backcourt to a semifinal team in Connecticut. So winners are important to us. When you relay it to this draft class, or in your particular question to Hailey, I think it resonates with all of us GMs, is that we value winning. We want to add winning and competitiveness to all our locker rooms.
All right. Thanks, Alexander. We're going to go to Kareem. Go ahead, Kareem, you're up.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for doing this. This one's going to be for you, Jamila. I'm curious, can you share a little bit, now that you've gone through free agency and tweaked the roster and kind of major moves through trades, how you've evaluated Shakira Austin and kind of where she stands with the franchise, as someone who is a high pick, is still kind of on her rookie contract, even though getting towards the end, kind of just her stance as far as with the future of the franchise, and how y'all see that impacting what you may do in the draft.
Yeah, thanks, Kareem. I think we're generally excited about the folks that we have returning on our roster, and certainly including Shakira. I think we all really enjoyed the unique opportunity to watch players on our teams during the offseason, whether that was overseas or during Unrivaled. And, the Mystics happened to have a bunch of folks playing down in Miami, and it was really great to see that group on the court and healthy. And I think gaining some confidence, having the opportunity just to be in a different moment, in a different setting, which I think is always good and refreshing for folks. So we were really excited to see both the skill improvement for all of our players, quite frankly, in the offseason, both here and also abroad.
All right, thanks. I promised I would get back to Jack Maloney with another opportunity. Jack, go ahead. Jack, you're going to be followed by Jordan and then Andrew.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is for whoever wants to answer. I know there was a combine style event down in Tampa this year. I'm just curious what, everyone thought of that, and understanding that the logistics would make it very difficult, if there's been any push for a more formal combine process before the draft like they have in the NBA.
Jack, I'll take it. I appreciate the question. Certainly appreciated the turnout at this year's Combine All-Star Game. Thought it was well represented by numerous players that will hear their names on Monday night. I personally love the fact that we could look at data, simple heights, but their reach and their wingspan and their hand size. A lot of metrics that we don't always get or have to ask specifically to athletic trainers of individual teams. So I think that information is all very, very valuable. As GMs across our league, we're all in an eyes, ears, numbers mindset, and our eyes tell us what we see at them playing. The numbers and the deep dives of analytics are just expanding for our league. And then, it's the ears. So, the more and more data, the more and more opportunity that we have with these players is a benefit to all of our franchises. So we appreciate that it continues to grow, and I personally hope that it continues to be an evolving, developing part of our game going into drafts.
All right, thanks. Going to turn next to Andrew. Andrew, you're going to be followed by Jordan. Andrew.
Thanks so much, Ron. Hey, Andy Lipton, question for Curt Miller. Curt, I got to see Aneesah Morrow play when she was a freshman at DePaul. Not only was I taken with her skills, but I thought she had a really good feel for the game. Whoever drafts her, will they be better suited to letting her be who she is or trying to transform her into a three-point shooting guard?
Yeah, I think, whichever franchise is fortunate to end up with her is getting a really talented player, first and foremost. I personally, in my decade in this league, think that rebounding has translated, and players that rebounded in college ended up rebounding in the pros. And so one of the things that you have that just pops off the chart when she leads the nation in rebounding is she goes and gets the ball. And she's undersized. So it talks about tenacity. It talks about desire. Rebounding's a big, hustle statistic. So, systems, coaches will determine what they want her to do at the pro level and whoever ends up with her. But I think using the term in a good way, all of us are looking to add dogs to our locker room. And I think we all believe that she'll be a dog in a locker room.
Gotcha. Thanks, Curt.
All right, thanks. Going to go to Jordan. Jordan, you'll be followed by Ben Pickman. Jordan, go ahead.
Hello, Jordan from Television Sports. My question, I will stay with Curt. So obviously you've been asked a lot about the first overall pick, but I wanted to ask about your two picks following that. So the 12th pick and the 14th picks. I guess just talk about, is there like a specific position you're targeting with those picks, or like what are you looking for as you as you get to those two picks following the first overall pick?
Yeah, really excited about those picks. Intentionally, as we constructed the roster, we've created an opportunity for 12 and 14 to make our opening day roster. That's not the case around the league with some late first round or second round picks. You would want to hear your name if you're in that range for Dallas, because there is absolutely a legitimate chance for 12 and 14 to make our opening day roster. And that was intentionally done through our free agency. So we're excited. So we've invested a lot of time on preparing to pick 12 and 14, and we're excited about it. First and foremost, it's always going to be culture for us and Coach Chris. It's going to be adding great people. I think people wins over talent any day. Chris and I have been a part of a lot of successful teams in the WNBA, and we truly believe that started it always in the locker room and doing it with great people. So that will be our focus. There's obviously skill sets that Dallas and we looked in the offseason to address. We wanted to add three-point shooting. We wanted to add defense. We wanted to become a better rebounding team and more depth in the post, knowing when I took the job who potentially was not coming back. So those have been started to be addressed, but continue to be addressed in the upcoming draft, and 12 and 14 are very important to us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Ben, you're up. You're going to be followed by Peter Holland. Ben, go ahead.
Thanks, Ron. This is also for Curt. I guess general question, do you think that this rookie class will mark a new era in the WNBA or a new stage or just a continuation of last year's boom?
Ben, in terms of popularity, like what angle are you asking me?
Yeah, just in terms of kind of popularity, interest, where the league is at, kind of in its life cycle, how we'll reflect on it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, in great position when I took the job. We were in the draft lottery, but hadn't won the draft lottery. So those videos probably still exist of me losing my mind that night. But excited about this draft class, bringing energy, continuing the momentum. where our league is at and where women's basketball is at. For us that have been a 35-year guy in the profession between Division One and the WNBA, I've always believed that we've had an incredible product. It was just how do we continue to get more and more eyes on our game and more people through the turnstiles to get into those games. And it's, so popular right now. So it's at a really good place. I'm excited about this draft class, keeping the momentum going and what is really, really special about our league. And I like the depth of this league. I think the challenge that the four of us on this call have is someone picked 20 might have a longer and more successful career when we look back at it years from now than someone that might get drafted, in the middle of the first round. So, there's been a lot of evaluation going on for all our franchises, and it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting at the same time. And, we're hoping, like we did with Dejanay, with a later second round pick to arguably, if you redrafted that 21 draft class, to be the number one pick overall. So, excited not only for number one, obviously, but our other picks also.
Thanks, Curt.
All right, thanks, Curt. Next to Peter Holland. Peter, you'll be followed by Nancy. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. Just for all GMs here. My name is Peter Holland. I write for the Tallahassee Democrat. I cover Florida State athletics, and I follow women's basketball all year. The one player that probably expected to be drafted somewhere in the first and maybe second round-ish. We'll see at least what I was drafted was Michaela Timpson. I just want to see what's your evaluation on her and what she brings to the table as a big.
All right, I'm gonna throw that to Jeff or Talisa, if you can take that, please.
Want me to take it, Talisa?
You got it.
All right. No, we got a lot of respect for Timpson's game. Measurables are very, very good. I think the wingspan was multiple inches, more than her height. And again, when you can find a player and an athlete, whose wingspan exceeds, their height, you got to start paying attention, because those types of factors will absolutely translate to our league, on both ends of the court, whether it's, offensively, defensively. And I think she was right around 17 and 10 this year. So, I mean, there's a lot there at, 6'2", 6'3", at the 4 position, at the 3 position. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to see where she lands.
All right, thanks. Going to turn to Nancy. Nancy, you'll be followed by Carly.
Thanks, everybody, for doing this. This question is for Curt. Curt, I'm just wondering, when you saw Caitlin's progression last year, I'm wondering if you took any lessons for that you all can use with Paige this year. And I'm not just talking about on the court stuff, but the off the court attention, which obviously we expect will be similar for Paige and for your franchise going forward this season.
Yeah, I think, Nancy, it's a good question. I think obviously Caitlin had an unbelievable impact on the court, and her adjustment was quick and very, very productive. And you saw how hot Indiana and how dangerous they were late in the year. And a lot of that was accredited to Caitlin's, quick adjustment, which is not always easy in this league. And because there is that adjustment. But I think the other thing that we all took notice of around our league is, something as simple as security, for our players, and how to navigate the increased viewership, the increased fandom, and how our players deserve to be protected and amplified at the same time, really taken care of. And it's a players first league. Our jobs all around the league is to create an incredible environment for these players. And, that's, obviously taking shape across the league with practice facilities, playing facilities, everything that these players have worked so hard for and deserved. Um, from, charters. I got in the league, you had to be a 6-year veteran or you were still sharing a hotel room. So to watch the improvement to how we handle the players and try to create these incredible experiences for them. Um, we just keep looking at best practices, and Caitlin's arrival in the league, we can look at a lot of best practices to Indiana's credit that they did, and we will all be implementing with our own players.
All right, thanks. We're gonna we did start a bit late, so we will go over just a few more minutes for about 3 or 4 questions. We're going to turn to Carly and then Sebastian and Dana. Carly.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you to all GMs for taking time out of your day to answer our questions. Questions for Jeff. Jeff, now that you have Ariel Atkins, Vandersloot, and the addition of Rebecca Allen, your guard group is kind of in a pretty solidified spot. When you look at forwards and people that you want to add into that forward group to join Michaela and Angel, who are some people that have stood out to you within the draft, like a Saniya Rivers or a Maddie Westfeld? And how would you evaluate this overall forward group that is in this draft class?
Yeah. Hey, Carly. Look, I think the draft class has a lot of depth to it. We added a lot of shooting, a lot of wings, in the off season, and we're always keeping an eye out for shooting fours. No secret, but we want to keep adding athletes in length. And to your question about Saniya, yeah, she could probably handle 1 through 3, a little bit of 4 at times. She's got a lot of length, maybe the best athlete, overall athlete in the draft, and she's got a lot of length too. She's proven she can guard multiple positions, which always matters in our league, because with length, you can cause some problems with point guards and wings. So you got to pay attention to players like that. And yeah, Westbelt, a pick and pop 4, some that can face up a little bit. You got to pay attention to players like that too, who were on great teams and had to sacrifice at times. Than being, a 2, 3, 4 option where maybe they could bid number 1 and they still have a lot of weapons. But, up until this season for the injury, Westbelt, I think, was hanging around 35, 36% from 3. So there's not a lot of players at her size that shoot the ball as well as she does. So yeah, we're paying attention to everybody. I think it has a lot to do with my peers on the call with what we'll see at number 10, but we got a plan. We're going to stick to it.
Awesome. Thank you,
Just
guys.
tell us who we're taking at 10. So us at 12 knows what the heck we're doing. Come on.
I think last year I saw Curt at a game and he said, you tell me who you're taking and I'll tell you who I'm taking. But that was the order, so I'm glad I didn't say anything then. So, that was my first interaction with my newfound friend. But we're still going to hold tight because we're trying to figure out what everybody else is doing.
So Jeff, when you told me that you were going to tell me, is that like every GMs just pass that on year to year?
Yes. And I still may, if you call me and give me a little bit of help, because you're determining quite a bit, for us at 10.
All right, Carly.
Thank you, guys.
Carly, good question. I think I've lost all control of the Zoom at this point. Everybody, we have time for about 2 more questions, and then stay with me because I have some information on when we'll be announcing the players invited to the draft in person. We're going to turn to Sebastian and then Dana.
Yes, thank you. This is Sebastian Rodriguez for Club Sports. I have a couple questions for Curt Miller. First of all, what are your expectations for Luluv and Senchal for this upcoming season? She had kind of a struggle last year. And also talking about Tyrone Robertson, this Mexican guy who's gonna get to your coaching staff in this upcoming season. What are your expectations for both of these Mexican people?
Yeah, great question. Excited about Lou and her future. She has elected to take this season off, and that has been publicly announced. And so we'll retain her rights going into the 2026 season. But Lou is having a tremendous season over in Spain, almost a 50-40-90 efficiency over there. And so just really appreciate the kind of year that she had and the honesty that she's going to sit out the year and be back with us in the future. you're stealing our thunder. We haven't quite announced publicly our hire of Tyron, but Ty is joining us as our new video coordinator coming from Mexico City and the G League, and can't be more excited about his addition, which will now you broke the news, but we'll go a little bit public this week.
All right, thanks. Dana, you're up.
Hey, Coach, can you hear me? Sorry, I called you Curt.
Yep.
Okay. So I call you Coach because I'm a Norwich resident, or former resident, and raised there, and so I'm so used to seeing you on the sidelines there. But I'm wondering, now that you're in a executive position, there were so many coaches that were in the carousel after 1 year, like yourself in LA. So now that you have Chris on the sidelines for Dallas, how do you allow that space for him to help develop this team that's brand new versus the results that you're expecting in the climate that it is for coaches across all the four major sports?
Yeah, great question. The excitement for us after a really thorough search and landing on Chris is the synergy that it brings from our front office through the coaching staff. Obviously, Chris and I were partners for 8 years between the Connecticut Sun and Los Angeles, and he truly became the voice of running our defense through the years. So I got, firsthand seat to just see how talented of a coach he is, the best teacher of the game through film that I've ever been around. And he originally started as our video coordinator. So really, really excited that, Chris is in that head coaching seat. But it's the synergy. Travis Charles is one of the longtime assistant GMs in the league. And when I took the job, a big attraction was that he was going to remain as an assistant GM. And then Jasmine Thomas, who was Chris and I's starting point guard for her last 8 years of her career in the W and was our coach on the floor for all those years, also was going to be an assistant GM, just made the synergy. We're so connected through that. Chris went out and hired coaches that I was familiar with as his assistants. So there's just an incredible synergy and a power throughout the organization in Dallas that I think it's really, really a positive time. With that said, Chris is going to be himself, and as good of a combo that we made in the successes that we had in finals or semifinals. He coaches completely different than I do. He has a demeanor that frankly resonates with the players of today, probably more than, grouchy Curt Miller. And, I see him relationship build with players and staff, and I just think he's going to be an unbelievable communicator with these players, and he's going to do it his way. It is not going to be a mini me kind of scenario here in Dallas. It is truly his era and his time, and I can't wait to support. My role is to help get him what he needs to be successful on the court, and that's staff, that's players. I'm serving him and his staff and doing the best we can to provide everything that would allow him to put a productive and successful product on the floor.
All right, thank you, Dana and Curt. Everybody, I want to say thank you to Jamila, Talisa, Jeff, Curt. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Wishing you the best luck on Monday night. Thanks, everybody. To our media, let me just give you a heads up. Tomorrow we will announce the players who are invited to attend the draft on Monday night in person. We will at 12 noon Eastern begin rolling out the names at one at a time over 15-minute intervals. That's 12 Eastern. WNBA social media will announce the names one at a time over 15-minute intervals. When that is completed, don't hold me to my math, but that's about 2:30-ish. We will put out a compilation press release. So once again, beginning at noon Eastern, one name at a time every 15 minutes, and see everybody on Monday night. Jamila, Curt, Jeff, Talisa, thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ron.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, y'all.